The Higher Constitutional Court declares readiness to receive applications for the upcoming presidential runoff, starting today and ending on the 1st of next May. A joint religious mass was held at the Holy Cross Church in Damascus for peace in Syria and the return of all the kidnapped. Iraqi security forces tighten control on the terrorist supply roads in al-Anbar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. Today is the first day of the period set for presenting applications for the upcoming presidential runoff in the Syrian Arab Republic, which will continue till the 1st of next May. Head of the High Constitutional Court Judge Adnan Zarif said the court is ready to receive the applications for the presidential candidacy. This step would be the implementation of the declaration made by People's Assembly Speaker Muhammad Jihad al-Laham yesterday about opening the door for receiving the applications of the presidential candidates according to the Constitution's provisions. Al-Laham called on any citizen who is willing to run for the post of president to submit the relevant application to the High Constitutional Court in a period of 10 days that starts this morning and ends Thursday, the 1st of next May. The People's Assembly Speaker set the date of electing the President of the Republic for Syrians abroad to be Wednesday, 28th of the next May from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. at the Syrian embassies in the countries they reside in, and for Syrian citizens in Syria on Tuesday, June the 3rd from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Amidst a popular official and religious participation on a wide scale, a joint Christian mass was held at the Holy Cross Church in Damascus for the return of all the kidnapped to their relatives, particularly the archbishops of Aleppo, Yohanna Brahimi and Boulos Yazigi. On the same day today last year, the two bishops were kidnapped by armed men whose terrorism spared no sheikh, priest, mosque or church. The participants in the mass prayed to God for the safe return of the two bishops, as well as for the return of all the kidnapped, hoping Syria would recover its security and stability. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Jawad Zarif and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov have discussed in Moscow bilateral relations, combating terrorism and Mideastern issues of common concern. Following the meeting, which was held on the sideline of the ministerial conference of the states off the shores of the Caspian Sea, Lavrov said the talks constituted an opportunity to exchange viewpoints on enhancing bilateral cooperation between Tehran and Moscow, particularly on the Iranian nuclear file, regional security and Middle East issues. On his part, Zarif said establishing peace and combating terrorism is one of the major Iranian and Russian policy priorities for the sake of finding a solution to the crisis in Syria. Within the same context, Lavrov discussed with the UN envoy to Syria, al-Brahimi, during a telephone conversation, a peaceful solution to the crisis in Syria. The Russian Foreign Ministry said Lavrov affirmed to al-Brahimi the need to resume the Geneva talks between the Syrian government and the opposition's delegations, the second round of which was concluded on the 15th of last February. The Syrian Arab Army has eliminated a number of terrorist groups' leaders in Babhoud neighborhood in the ancient part of the city of Homs, as well as in the quarters of Al-Qusur and Al-Qarabis. Syrian Arab Army units have taken control of a number of buildings northeast of Al-Walidiyya school, as well as of the school's compound in Jubb al-Jandali quarter, killing and wounding a number of terrorists in ancient Homs. A military source said the Syrian Arab Army destroyed a terrorist hideout in Babhout Quarter and intercepted armed men who tried to attack military checkpoints in Tal Amari, al-Mishrfe, al-Ghassibiye, Tal Qatari and Ain al-Dananir in Homs countryside, killing 40 and injuring a number of them, including 5 groups' leaders. The Syrian Arab Army units have found 2 factories for making explosive devices in various sizes in Asal al-Warad, Hush Arab and al-Ma'mura in Damascus countryside. In Aleppo and its countryside, units of the Syrian Arab Army eliminated a number of terrorists and destroyed their weaponry in Handarat, al-Jandul, north of the industrial city, surrounding the central prison, al-Sheikh Said and al-Sukkari. Another unit of the Syrian Arab Army killed and injured terrorists in al-Ansari, Hreitan, Abd Rabbo, Kafar Hamra, Leramoun and Winniq. The Syrian Arab Army also destroyed terrorist cars on the road to Daret Azza and 3 trucks west of Al-Bab, killing and injuring many armed men. Welcome back. Settlers have stormed al-Aqsa mosque backed by the Israeli occupation troops and wandered inside in an act of defiance and scorn of the religious sentiments of the Muslims who confronted the settlers. In a relevant context, 2 Palestinian boys were choked when Israeli occupation troops fired a tear bomb at their houses in Naqwa, east of Bethlehem. Another boy from Al-Laban village south of Nablus was injured after he was severely beaten by Israelis as he was trying to stop them from storming his house. In Awarta village, southeast of Nablus, more than 35 Palestinians were choked when Israeli occupation troops fired tear bomb at them as they were trying to stop the army military from storming the village. In Gaza Strip, the Israeli occupation troops have maintained the closure of Karam Abu Salim and Beit Hanun crossing points at the pretext of the Jewish religious festivities and the weekend. In Iraq, security forces have maintained control over most of the routes that have been used by terrorists of the so-called the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant to transport arms and logistics to Al-Fallujah city during the battles that took place in the last 2 days to drain sources of arming and funding the terrorist organizations. An Iraqi military source said that the battles were expected to continue till all Al-Anbar province has been liberated, so that situation in Al-Fallujah city that is still besieged be back to normal. In a relevant context, 4 people were killed and 25 others were injured in a terrorist suicidal attack in Al-Karada area in Baghdad. A police source in Baghdad has indicated that the blast took place inside a cafe house often visited by artists and literary figures. The blast came following a series of similar terrorist attacks that claimed the lives of at least 31 with more than 70 injured. Like the referendum in the Republic of Crimea, the protesters in Lugansk, southeast of Ukraine, who reject the terrorism of the extremist elements, decided to hold a referendum on the legal status of their province. The referendum is scheduled on 2 stages. The first stage is set to be on 11th of May, during which the autonomy of the province will be decided. The second stage is scheduled on 18th of May, in which the residents are to decide whether their province will be an independent republic or part of Russia. Residents of the province started to consider independence as they suffered from repeated attacks by extremist Ukrainian gunmen, a thing that forced the mayor of Slavensk to call on the Russian leadership to send peacekeeping forces into Donetsk and Lugansk. Finally, on the occasion of the International Day of Heritage, the Minister of Culture held a variety of activities entitled the Festivity of Syrian Days of Heritage that took place in various traditional sites in Old Damascus.
As part of the festivity, Khan Assad Basha hosted an exhibition of traditional handcrafts which were famous in Damascus, while the ancient Al-Azam Palace was decorated with traditional costumes that were displayed beautifully in the gardens and yards. The palace also hosted a party for the Mulawai traditional dancing group, which presented a distinguished performance. Another exhibition for Arabic calligraphy took place in Al-Jaqmaqiya school. Meanwhile, the rooms and halls of Dar Mardan Beg for Culture and Arts witnessed an exhibition for fine arts, which included paintings depicting the traditional habits and customs. In other rooms, another exhibition was vying for attention, displaying the traditional books.
الرسالة التي نريد أن نوصلها للجميع هو أن سوريا عريقة بتاريخها وبتراثها.
Minister of Culture Lubana Mshaweh said that the activity aims at reviving the memory, which is full of rich ancient Syrian heritage. The minister pointed out to the necessity of focusing on the traditional handicrafts and supporting them because they reflect the identity and civilization of the Syrians. For her part, the political and media advisor at the presidency, Dr. Busaina Shaban, said that the festivity came to tell the whole world that Syria, its heritage, identity and civilization are immune and hard to be entrenched by the enemy or by anyone who wants to undermine its history.
With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our site in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short